Evening, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another awesome Legacy stream. This time it's brought to you by Jay the Mind Sculptor, who has donated for, this is an approximate quote, a clearly Tier 1 mono black deck. So I really enjoy playing mono black decks. The first standard deck I ever played had things like Vampire Nighthawk, Gatekeeper of Malachar, a little bit later like Lash Writhe, Phyrexian Obliterator, things of that general nature. So I just get really excited whenever like I can just play a bunch of basic swamps and go to town. You run the Pox Discord, yeah, so this thing is going to be right up your alley. Alright, so what's the dream tonight? The dream tonight is that spells and abilities your opponent control can't cause their controller to search their library. Plus, Marilyn of the Morn Song, which says players can't draw cards, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player loses 3 life, searches their library for a card, puts it into their hand, and then shuffles their library. So we're looking to assemble a soft lock in that way, or just, like, bury our opponent in card advantage via Hymn to Turok, Dark Confidants, 6 Lilies, or just accidentally hit them with a dinosaur 3 times. So we have various game plans that all work off of swamps and dark rituals. So we hymn them and Thoughtseize them to death, we bob them to death, we lily them to death, we kind of lock them out to death, or we dinosaur them to death. We don't have main deck Leyline, unless I messed up the deck list on Cardboard Live. It should be sideboard Leyline. Yeah, sideboard Leylines. And I don't think we're a Helm deck, although it is definitely cute with this. Our sideboard has some mono-black favorites, like Chains of Mephistopheles. You can read the text. It's very clear what it does. And this Legacy staple, Dystopia. Cumulative upkeep, pay 1 life. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a green or white permanent. I'm pretty sure this is a meme card, but far be it from me to pull this out of the deck. Because if we get paired against, like, Maverick or D&T, this is going to be hilarious. As if this isn't enough of a beating. And I'll definitely enjoy it. Normally I'd hype up the deck tech a little more, but I've been doing spoken Latin all week in class, and I'm going to be honest with you, my voice is a little tired. It's been a really fun week for me. Essentially, right now, I'm just trying to get the kiddos to be better at questions and answer and changing noun and verb endings around by using, like, question and answer responses using spoken Latin and a bunch of pictures as prompts. It's been really fun for me. Some of them love it. Some of them are like, oh, no, why? I've also done a little playing off stream this week. Although those matches were recorded. I've started a backlog so that if for some reason I can't stream, I can still upload a video instead. So I recorded my first backlog video set, which is a set with Eldrazi. Hello and welcome. And we found a match. We are playing against a dinosaur, and I am a dragon. I think dragons are favored in the fight versus dinosaurs, so really this one's decided before I even roll the die. We're going to give our opponent a chance, and we're absolutely keeping this hand. Depending on what we see from our opponent, we have a lot of first lines. I'm probably going to Dark Ritual Thoughtseize Bob, though. Alright, so we're maybe playing against Loam here. My opponent is representing something like a Punishing Fire or Abrupt Decay. So the thing about my hand is I only have one land, so I really, really, really want a Bob in play. To hit future land drops. I think Ashiok is the try to spike the game and just win play. But I think Dark Ritual into Bob is the play that more than likely sets me up to win a long game. And since my opponent has 3 cards right now, I think I want to play towards winning the long game. Whew. Opponent has Stone Cold nothing now. Nice Wasteland, opponent. You also have a Bob. Dark Ritual is a sweet Magic card. We need to play with this card more on stream. The idea is that... Oh, does my opponent have a Sneaky Dryad Arbor? I don't care if they do. I'll still have a Liliana left over. So the idea is that with this Ashiok, it just prevents my opponent from doing anything. Am I willing to pay 2 life to see what card my opponent has in hand? They could have something like a Knight of the Reliquary that they couldn't cast, so I believe that the answer is yes. Savannah. That's a fine result, too. Opponent is like typing mono black control in chat. I'm going to plus the Lily this turn. But then next turn I'll probably minus and get my Bob back. And just like guarantee that I get value out of this Liliana. Although maybe I'll just go like straight for the emblem. We'll see. Going straight for the emblem is kind of awkward in the face of this Blast Zone. So my opponent can... I can tick up to 6. And my opponent ticks up to 3 this turn, and then I can hit a land, untap, and kill this. Yeah. Well, so my opponent has his Blast Zone, right? So if I just tick up Lily, my opponent ticks up the Blast Zone, then sacrifices the Blast Zone on their turn and gets my Lily. So I'm going to take guaranteed value out of my Lily here. Hey, hey, welcome. We're playing Shenanigans. My opponent has approved of my deck choice. I'm playing like a crazy number of lands, right? Just to like confirm, isn't it like 24? Yeah, 23 lands. Plus 4 Dark Rituals. We did just mill 2 in a row, unfortunately. Well, that's obnoxious. So this is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1 swamp and 14 cards, discounting the 2 that we milled. That's bad. Yeah, I think we're just gonna lose this one for not getting a second mana source. And that's super unfortunate. Yeah. So we're gonna get attacked for 3, go to 12. Then we're gonna get attacked for 8, maybe 9, and basically be dead. You're late. Now my opponent can just like swap a food for a Bob. Yep. All right. We were extremely advantaged, but never drew a second land. That's frustrating. All right. So the Edict is good. The Elder Spell's good. The Plague Engineer's fine. This is a green or white permanent. Yeah, sure. Get in here. We'll consider Oko. So what don't I want? I don't think I want to let my opponent tutor when they have the card quality that they do. Like, this doesn't shut off my cantrips from my opponent's side, so I'm probably going to junk those. I think Ashiok on the play, if I can turn one, it is just crazy good. I think all my Planeswalkers are very good, in fact. Maybe I'm not supposed to Spyglass Oko. And I'm just supposed to Elder Spell it instead. That is indeed dystopia. And what if we trim some Regisaurs and then just like trim one Thoughtseize? Call that good. Yeah, this is fine. It's not an explosive hand, but it does stuff. So instead of Spyglassing Oko, I'm choosing to Elder Spell the Oko since it benefits my lilies so much. Draw step stuff. We will play Bob into a removal spell. Yeah, I think Maverick's pretty good right now. I had a poll on Twitter asking about whether or not people thought Loam or Maverick was better. The masses tend to like Loam a little bit better right now. Decay that, Bob. Do it. I know it's coming. Even better would be play your own Bob, though, so I can Plague Engineer it. Just get it out of the way. Nice! Ooh, him's great. I kind of do just want to him my opponent before they can potentially play an Oko. And then just push the Bob, save the Plague Engineer for a later turn. The Plague Engineer is, like, really good value. In that, like, I get an instant 2-for-1 and get to crash in. But him to Turok's also a 2-for-1. So let's take the him. Caracas and Knight. Fatal push the Bob. Send Bob, and I'm in. Oh, it has more lands. Well, we'll blow that up. I sacrifice this creature. Fatal Push is probably only a medium quality removal spell in this deck, if I'm being honest. So if I played the dinosaur into the active Lily, I would be losing 2 cards a turn. And I don't think that's amazing for me. Like, it's fine once I'm hellbent, but before that, it's extremely awkward. Let's get something out of their hand and then play a Plague Engineer. An Abrupt Decay. Leaving them with a Wasteland that's going to do nothing. I'm going to name Human for Bob/Knight. Although Elk is also tempting. Yeah, and this is kind of what I meant, because we can't necessarily trigger the Revolt consistently. So despite the fact that we have 2 removal spells here, this is very awkward for me. So I think I'm going to go ahead and hold back. The hope is that my opponent removes my Plague Engineer. Revolt is leaves play, right? Not dies. Guess who does not play non-legacy formats? Yeah, left the battlefield. Right, but if my opponent... There's other things to consider there, Fine and Andy. Like, if my opponent attacks... So I'm trying to get them to use a removal spell on the Plague Engineer on their turn, so I can kill their knight while keeping my card. Opponent junked a Mox Diamond. That's fine. I have a lot of 3-drops to draw into. But they have, like, Okos and Knights and things that I care about. Hey, hey, welcome. Alright, am I actually going to minus this thing? That's the real question. I think I do, because it nukes the graveyard. The actual question is, do I just push this Arbor? So I think what I'm going to do is hold priority, activate Ashiok, and then Fatal Push this Arbor in response. That way, I can't get my Ashiok decayed or something. Because it would be super awkward to, like, resolve the Ashiok, go to push the Arbor, and then Ashiok gets decayed. It'd be so embarrassing. We have junked an Oko, so everything's going great. The deck list is on screen. I don't particularly... If you click on the cards, the cardboard live icon, I don't particularly have strong graveyard synergies. Hey, that's very good. So is that, though. We got a Bob out of there. Now I'll play a Bob. Yeah, then no. I have ley lines in the sideboard. So I'm not particularly going to be working with graveyard-based synergies. Sylvan is better. No. Like, there's like one Scavenging Ooze in my opponent's deck that's gonna make me want to, like, Ashiok myself. Are they giving me a 3/3? I bet they're giving me a 3/3. They're giving me a 3/3. They made my Bob bigger. God, this is any number of targets. Are we serious? That's insane. Just that one. Go, Ashiok, go. So, will my opponent deck, or will they die to an elk? That is the current debate. Library makes the math kind of interesting. Fancy Pokemon Energy Forest. Neat. An Ooze, sure. Yeah, you can eat some stuff. I'm just gonna Liliana's Triumph this away. There's only, I think, one more creature in there for them to eat. I think there was a Bob and a Regisaur. So everything else I don't care about. I think I'm just going to wait till Lily's Triumph on my turn. Just on the off chance that I drew a Lily and I got to take that card out with me. Oh yeah, it exiles each opponent's graveyard. You can target yourself with the mill ability, though. Opponent down to 15 cards in deck. We nuked Savine's Reclamation, so that's cool. So I think my opponent's out of Knight of the Reliquaries. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we don't need to worry about the big boy anymore. That's cool. So now that Oko is going to continue to produce food, I'm probably less worried about winning via life total stuff. Dovin's Veto, that's good to know about for the next game. And I think I'm just going to take another couple of cards immediately. It's kind of weird. So I can just take 4 more cards immediately, or I can hold this in hand, hope opponent uses their resources to kill Bob and Ashiok, and then mill again next turn. Or otherwise, if they don't kill Ashiok, I minus and then minus again. I think I'm going to hold back. Chris, we just started. So we are presumably about to be 1-1 in games with this. We're doing as shockingly well. All right, that was pretty good, Spatula. I do really only think we lost that first game because we just absolutely did not get a second land. I think otherwise we were totally fine that game. Spatula, I believe it is 15 cards. I was sad that my Enchantress 5-0 didn't get posted, which means it's potentially going into this next week's instead. Steamflyer Boss, I believe that I missed the cutoff time to 5-0, so I think I should be in this next deck list dump. Got him. So my opponent, after all of that, does have a Punishing Fire. I guess I should, like, take a snip of this in case I need to refer back to it for some reason. Since I do have, like, my opponent's entire deck in exile. I'm not sure how good Regisaur is with, like, Oko on the other side of the table. But at the same time, this is kind of the backup plan for when the Planeswalker stuff doesn't work. My opponent has Decays, Swords, Oko to get rid of it. I'm gonna junk this. I don't really hate just having more things that interact with their Oko. It's just so good. It does mean I have one fewer permanent for things like Fatal Push, which is awkward. Yep. Absolutely keep. My opponent has mulliganed, so this hymn will probably feel pretty good. I will probably end up just jamming a hymn on turn 1, and then following it up with Bob, rather than vice versa. I'd love to just draw Thoughtseize. Oh, we got a library. That's a win. We didn't force any removal out of my opponent's hand. They just have like a Bob. Chalice on 1. Deal. I have cast likely the only 1-drop that I will draw this game. He says as he draws a 1-drop. Yeah, my opponent has done that multiple times. It's also a mistake if I'm playing any, like, Wastelands or something like that. Not getting blue, getting white, so probably seeing a knight here. Ooh, get the library back. I can respect it. Well, I'm not going to let you get backup value on that. What's the flashback on that? 5? Yes. The top of their library was quite good. Like a Bob there, another Sylvan Library, so even if they didn't hit this, they could have potentially found something sweet. Abrupt Decay targeting the Bob means that Ashiok stays around to play, so this is fine with me. Alright, there goes another Bob. So my opponent now kind of needs to use their library to find answers to my Bobs, otherwise I'm just going to bury my opponent in cards. But this Ashiok means that they can't really cycle things away from the top of the library. So things are probably going to get interesting. It revealed the Liliana's Triumph, so I guess that means I should just cast it. But we'll continue to do the same thing as before. We hold priority, activate Ashiok, then Lily's Triumph. Goodbye, cards. So I'm going to name Elk in this position, because if my opponent plays an Oko, I don't want them to create a 3/3, which is bigger than all 3 of my creatures that I have on board. I'm just saying this deck is silly and fun, but surprisingly okay. It is a Thalia. And to that I say, cool. So my opponent does have this Chalice, so that's a thing. I think I'm just the aggro deck. I think I just, like, accept losing 1 card to the Thalia's first strike and send in the troops. Hit my opponent for 4. Play a Dystopia minus Ashiok again. I guess I'm clearing my opponent's Sylvan Library for them by doing this Ashiok thing. I need to give my opponent a smiley face. Opponent getting rid of the Sylvan. And just playing off the top of the library now. Indeed, Legacy Staple Dystopia. Yeah, I'm gonna pay 1 life for that. That gets rid of the Thalia on my opponent's turn. And this is an insane draw. So for 3 mana, I can name Oko with Sorceress Spyglass. Then I can mill you. Then I play a new one. Then I can mill you. And so there's no need to take an attack this turn. The Dystopia will kill Thalia on my opponent's upkeep. And then I have lethal the following turn. A Legacy staple Dystopia doing work. Ah, opponent is not dead. But it looks like they are conceding. Ah, no threshold. That's hilarious. You don't usually think about Cabal Pit not having threshold on turn 8 of a match, you know? That's not something that you usually go, oh, of course they don't have threshold. I've been exiling their graveyard every turn. So that was hilarious and fun. That's what I came here to do. So first thought, after playing the first round of the deck, is that it's super awkward if... yes, keep. If I need to kill a 3-drop. The end of that was fun and amazing. We were being a bully, which is everything we like to do on this channel. So, winning. Oh, God. Oh. My opponent just responded with a bunch of things that got censored. Yes, seems fine. Yeah, we are giving the death to the death and taxes here. Man, still no play for my opponent. It's fine. I just have more lilies. Hmm. So I'm gonna take one of the 2 drops. Have I played a land yet? Yes. So this is all the mana that I get this turn. I kind of just want to take the Stoneforge. Let my opponent have the Thalia since it's an X1. Yeah. So I'm going to take the Stoneforge here. I'm going to attack in with 2 Bobs. See if this causes my opponent to put in the Thalia. It does not. I'm fine with this Lily taking a hit, because my opponent could just Flicker Wisp it out anyway. So I'm going to play this card. I'll discard that. And I could just get it back, but I don't really want to. My opponent has Caracas, so I'm just going to plus on nothing here. And pass the turn. My opponent either has to attack this or Flicker Wisp it, or it threatens lethal. I think my opponent has made some errors in sequencing, probably for being on tilt. Like, I think they should have played the Caracas on their previous turn to hold up, like, Thalia bounce shenanigans. I also think they should have played the Stoneforge to the board and held the Thalia to put in via Vial. Since the Stoneforge doesn't immediately die to Lily. Oh, wow. Just gunning for me. They need to end step, flicker this out. Oh, no. Oh, no. So this is probably the Flicker Wisp to flicker out my Lily. It could be the Prelate, but it would seem like very strange timing to do so. So I let this happen. Nice. So I can him these 2 cards away. I can Lily minus and push. So Lily minus, you sacrifice a creature. I hope it's Thalia. Nice. So one of my permanents has left the board this turn. So I push. No, I want them to sacrifice the Thalia. I don't want them to bounce the Thalia in response to a Caracas thing. I don't think I play out the 3rd Bob. Like, I might be killing some of my Bobs anyway, as is. Good Bobs. I guess I should have Lily Veil activated first. This is slightly awkward. My opponent might Mize a kill here. Will my opponent notice this is legendary? Also, I can't really play this against them because they just get like Recruiter into Wisp and everything's a disaster. I think I need to represent lethal next turn with 3 Bobs and fade a draw from my opponent. It's weird. So like this 100% happens. I'm not going to kill one of my Bobs in this position. So the Lily kills the Crusader if my opponent doesn't kill me via these triggers. But do I need to represent 6 points of damage next turn by playing out this other Bob? This is a risky spot. I have a lot of 3s. Greatness at any cost. But I think I just have to represent lethal. And hope not to spike 2 3s. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Whew. Whew. Little Narnian, thank you very much for subscribing. I do really appreciate the support. I hope you're enjoying this. That was closer than I expected for a turn 1 Lily. Whew, alright. Dystopia, get in here. Plague Engineer, you're in. Triumph, you're in. Spyglass, come join the Cool Kids Club. I think I'm a Planeswalker control deck versus Death and Taxes. I think this card is absolutely unplayable versus D&T, both because it's legendary, and because if you don't have the Ashiok, letting your opponent get a Recruiter is a disaster. Absolute disaster. Next, I think I just trim some of my 3-drops down. I'll keep 1 Regisaur just because like it's big and fat. And I'll call this good. It's not like the Ashiok is amazing versus D&T. D&T searches via Stoneforges and Recruiters, so shutting those off is cool. My opponent kept so quickly that I thought they had put me on the play. So I'm going to shut off this Vial. And I don't have any creatures in hand, so I'm going to take the Revoker so that my opponent doesn't, like, spike name Ashiok, and it's super awkward for me. So how greedy am I? Do I just him here? I think I wait one more turn and just shut off the Vial. I don't want to give my opponent a chance to dump anything in with this if at all possible. So now my opponent can hard play out Flicker Wisp as a threat. I appreciate the patience from my opponent there. We'll see if it's rewarded. Do I just play Ashiok here? My opponent has a Flicker Wisp, 2 cards that I don't care, 3 cards I don't really care about. I guess this was the plans that they just played. So I know 2 of my opponent's cards are, like, hard dead cards, so I don't necessarily want to him them. The Flicker Wisp hitting play is somewhat annoying. But, like, I don't really want to make my opponent discard these things. I mean, I played a turn 1 Lily Last Hope in game 1. They know. They know. Alright. I'm not stoked about this. But I'm going to go ahead and use both my discard spells here. Oh man, I don't care about them having any of those cards, actually. But I don't use my mana if I don't do it now. We could draw Bob later. I actually want to hit the Wasteland more than the 2 Swords to Plowshares. So now next turn I'm hoping to Ashiok on an empty board. My opponent whiffs on a creature this turn. Yeah, that counts as a whiff. And then I can have Fatal Push. Oh. I'm play conservatively and just play the Ashiok and decrease the power of a top-decked Stoneforge or Recruiter. Very disciplined play on my end. Don't mean to toot my own horn there or anything. But it would be real tempting to just play Bob and hold up push there, I think. I think most people know that I'm one of the D&T guys. Nice. Blow up Thalia. Bob's your uncle. And your aunt exiles your graveyard. And gets rid of a Mirren Crusader. Get out. Please don't top deck Palace Jailer, though. I have a family. Alright, somebody clip that. Somebody clip that. Do I just treat it like 2 life? Or do I just play another Ashiok and just immediately start minusing again? I think I'm going to treat it like 2 life. And if my opponent doesn't bother to kill it, and just starts going after my life total, then every mill that I get out of the Ashiok becomes more and more valuable. Gonna keep that one open for later. I mean, Pox just isn't objectively all that powerful of a strategy. I mean, no offense to Pox, but it does not win the game in a hurry, you know? I feel like we kind of close out games quickly. But this, like, that's a 1 of in our opponent's deck, like 2 of absolute tops. And it was just the worst possible draw for us. More Aether Vial. Still a Jitte in there. I guess Mother of Runes would be annoying. And shut off some of our outs later on. This Rashaden is basically irrelevant once I have this many lands in play. Kofigert, thank you very much for your continued support as well. You are the 2nd sub of the night. So this will be good if we can get that off the board. Painter's Pox, Painter's Servant playing. No. Boo. I don't know that I can beat my opponent now. Doesn't even kill anything. So this would be 6, 7, 8, 9. I probably need to play it just to soak up some Jitte counters, which is unfortunate. Alright, my opponent does have multiple Palace Jailers. That's good to know about. So I should have no outs to that now. But I'm going to see if my opponent... No, my opponent does not choose the damage. They choose to keep the Jitte counters. Don't think I'm going to change anything about how I'm sideboarding here. I think the good old Planeswalker plan is amazing. Our opponent got that Palace Jailer off the top, which was probably literally the only card they could have drawn to get them out of that position. Like, it needed to be Palace Jailer or the things you played in the Palace Jailer slots. Like a Palace Jailer or a Gideon. They needed something of that ilk. If they just played any normal card that, like, 1-for-1 or even 2-for-1, my Planeswalker... this is amazing. So we can have a long discussion about whether or not you're supposed to Thoughtseize or Hymn to Torok first here. But I'm going to Hymn to Torok first. This is what it's like to be the bad guy. And we got Plague the Vile out of their hand too. What do you mean the guy's the luckiest? We hymned away 2 of his lands. I don't think he gets to be called the luckiest. That Palace Jailer play, that was legend. That was the stuff of legend, unquestionably. But ripping a land off the top in your 23 to 24 land deck is not at all surprising. Oof. Ooh, there's Cataclysm. Glad that's gone. Here comes a Revoker. Or maybe a Thalia. It's dead either way. Nice. 3 lands. Got him. So opponent can choose to use their turn to source a 5-shares this Bob or play something that stops this. I am fine with giving them that decision. Ooh, they get to do both. Oh, give me the land. Give me the land. Not technically what I wanted, but acceptable. So since I know my opponent has a Stoneforge, I'm just going to keep this Ashiok in play. Oh, no. That makes the short lists for one of the harshest things that I've ever seen. Ooh, nice. So again, we'll leave this in play for Stoneforge/Recruiter reasons. Me too. Me too. Wait, do Ashiok and Maryland not combo together? I thought they did combo together, and that was the whole point of this deck submission. Doesn't the opponent control the trigger that occurs? That's awkward with this Liliana's Triumph, but it is what it is. I keep trying to target with this thing, like that's something you have to do. Mill. Mill. Well, we'll figure out when it actually happens. I assume the person who sent me the deck list knew what they were talking about. Oh god, Flicker the Plague Engineer. Oh, this is even better. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Bad news. So we're not gonna get rid of the Revoker this turn. We'll just wait one turn on that, and we'll hold back this Plague Engineer. We have the baddest of manners tonight. This is a great game of Magic. Top tier entertainment. Thank you once again to Jay the Mind Sculptor for donating to make us play this unquestionably tier 1 legacy deck. Should have played this one in the prelim. Give me a removal spell off the top. I like it. I should have cast my Thoughtseize first. So opponent has 15 cards left in library. Ashiok doing serious, serious work. I've never lost to Mono Black Mill. It was really hoping to spike a Bob. That's okay. So now we won't attack. I think opponent has to kill our Ashiok or they die. They have 3 cards left in library. Goodbye, Ashiok. I'll miss you. Hey, that's not bad. So the cool thing here is that I can chump block with a Plague Engineer and then potentially bring it back with a Lily. So that's cool. Oh yeah, this is awesome. So I think my opponent needs to attack Lily with Crusader. And animate Gideon, attack me with Gideon. Oh, I am being attacked by both Gideon and Mirren Crusader. So I'll just block the Gideon, soak up the 5. And this is not going to work the way you want, opponent. Ooh, that's really strong. Now there's a world where I might lose this. Unfortunately, that's just going to get rid of a knight. So this can't attack. Okay, if I block, are there any worlds where I end up taking lethal damage next turn? Is my opponent's Sword of Fire and Ice and Jitte in exile? Yes. So if I just block this turn, next turn this is 5, 9, 10, 11. They would need to produce 5 more power with 0 cards in hand. Oh wait, hold on. They have 1 other card left in. So they get 2 attacks. So I guess this holds back an additional point of damage here. So I can take this block later. And just take this now. G. Plus for bad manners. That was amazing. This is everything everyone has ever wanted from Magic right here on this stream. 2-0 broke the format. Yeah, that game had way more back and forth than I expected for how cripplingly far ahead I was. Um, I think if my opponent played tighter during that match, they would have unquestionably have won. Because I played as optimally as I could, with the exception of like a missequencing thing on a Thoughtseize him situation. But my opponent like threw away a recruiter and a Thalia, and either one of those potentially could have turned the course of the game. Ken Sportsman. Well, Ken, how do you feel about Thoughtseize and Bob? Because I'm going to hemorrhage blood over here to play Magic. I'm in. Are you? Oh, don't turn one me. Let me rip you apart with my Thoughtseizes. What do you mean, Mole? We have Thoughtseize and Bob. Oh, you want another turn one, Lily. I can't blame you, DLC. Speaking of DLC, oh, no creature. Speaking of DLC, Dead Cells just got new DLC, and I'm super excited about it. Well, this hand's awkward. Because if I take the Entomb, then my opponent unmasks me and animate dead my Bob. So I cannot just snap off the Entomb. I need to take the animate dead, but then I'm going to be in very bad shape. Like I just don't think I'm gonna beat a Bob from my opponent unless it like frickin' flips Grizzlebrand. It's a touch unfortunate. And like my opponent also had the second land to just be guaranteed to be able to go land, animate dead, and plus an unmask. Yeah. So there go both unmasks. Goodbye, Bob. Well, let's force the Entomb out of their hand, and then I'll take whatever their secondary card is if it's not a land. So opponent will have the ability to play land and then flashback Faithless Looting to try to get into a discard spell. Or not a discard spell, a reanimation spell. We might end up being favored in this matchup. Not game one. Absolutely not game one. But with the Leylines post board and the relatively high amount of disruption that we have, I think we can be okay. Leyline's stupid good right now. It's in like almost literally every deck that I play these days. Like I played Leyline in something it didn't belong in. Like I think I played Leyline in Delver or something like that. People are like, Phil, why? And I said, because I love Leyline. Leyline is bae. I didn't actually say that, but I said something of that ilk. Eleshnorn, you say? I'm gonna get my Bob back. Ah, both gone. You're a little late, and I don't think I'm gonna show you to my opponent. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and concede here. Alright. Spyglass, you're in. Leyline, you're in. Triumph, you're in. We're not gonna bring in chains here. I know, you're thinking, faithless looting, bring in chains. What can go wrong? Everything. Everything can go wrong. So this is getting boarded out. Fatal Push is getting boarded out. And now I need to cut one more card. Lily Last Hope is not particularly good. Like, it's bad enough that I may just, like, play a Plague Engineer in its spot. I guess it can get back Bobs that get discarded, or a Regisaur that gets discarded. And it's technically a win condition on its own. Yeah. Yeah, so the Loam deck that we played against was technically a fair blue deck, but it's not really what you mean. Yeah, if we get paired against like a Brainstorm Ponder preordained deck, we're going to enjoy not 2 chains, but 3 chains. So, Inverted Ninja, we're going to try to stop Grizzlebrand from hitting play, rather than deal with it when it's in play. We have a couple of edicts for those sorts of scenarios, but generally speaking, if Grizzlebrand hits play, it's not going to be great. Opponent giving real thought about what to sideboard against the deck. They didn't see very many of my cards. They just saw, like, Thoughtseize and some Swamps and a Bob. Well, I'm going to keep this hand. Red Hot, thank you very much for your support as well. It is really appreciated. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. I'm having an absolute blast here. You are our 3rd stream tonight. I will talk to Anurag soon about setting up some cooperative content. Now the question is, what do I do with my turn 1? I don't think it's Lily of the Veil. I think it's probably just Ashiok, and then I just, like, Thoughtseize my opponent into Oblivion over future turns. Because Ashiok also just might Mise a fetch land-based win. What do you mean I haven't set up my MTGO username? Ooh, multiple entombs here is kind of rough. So my opponent gets to end of turn, entomb, and then animate dead on their turn. Yeah. Oh, okay. So Ashiok is actually going to stop them from searching. Never mind. His hand is not nearly as good as I thought at first glance, because I was just looking without thinking about my Ashiok. So the entombs are off. The delta is off. Basically, their entire hand does nothing. So I just take... I can either take the Grizzlebrand and just exile it so that my opponent can't, like, looting into putting it in play, or I can just take the Reanimate. Since it's what they can cast off their mana. I'm going to take the Reanimate this turn and the Grizzlebrand next turn. So now I get 2 of their cards. I don't really care about your Reverent Silence. Now we'll take your Grizzlebrand. Now I'll take your Exhume. No, I'll take your Animate Dead. No, I'll take your Exhume. The Animate Dead would make the creature smaller, at least. No, Animate Dead. I was going to plus and then minus, but I kind of want to keep this. I'm just going to play out the Lily for the sake of my mana here, and then not use it. Phil, what are your hobbies? Milling Reanimator players, mostly? So this is something that I don't mind discarding. Am I okay with giving my opponent the opportunity to fetch? Kind of. It's awkward. Letting a fetch turns on the Faithless looting. I don't think I'm supposed to do that. Nice. So real questions, is my opponent still going to keep the Reverent Silences in for next game after I've gone through so many cards and, like, not pulled a ley line? I guess technically I should have attacked first in case my opponent is playing some weird bounce spell or something, but I think we're kind of phoning it in at this point. can also just like ultimate a Liliana and split my opponent's like Lotus Petal Delta in one pile, Swamp in another pile. Got him. Good job, Reggie. You did a thing. It was definitely you that did the thing, not the turn 1 Ashiok. Don't let anyone take that credit from you. Yeah, we'll snap this one off. Well, the person who sent me the deck list, I believe, thought that it did. Some people in chat have been claiming not so much. So I'm going to play a Thoughtseize into this Chancellor trigger just to clear it. So that I can Dark Ritual into something that I care about next turn. I'm not sure what I am going to play next turn. Reverent Silence. So that Reverent Silence may have been premature if my opponent can't also go off this turn. We'll see. This is so good against the Entomb side of that deck. I sort of have an abundance of riches here. In that spiking a land for either one of these is kind of disgusting. And they will play well together if I get both into play. And if I don't find that land, I just play Bob and ride the Bob train all the way until Ken Sports Fan concedes in frustration to this Ashiok. So something subtle that this Ashiok is doing that you may not immediately realize. Ooh. Alright. So they get rid of their Chancellor, and they have produced a creature. So as soon as I get to one more mana, I can take that off of the board. So I'll want to play my Bob this turn to just increase my ability to hit the land and remove this. Since this Ashiok will die anyway to a Chancellor attack, I'm just going to go ahead and take the mill here and play this Bob. The card does work. Unquestionably. Oof. So we have this Chancellor trigger. Anytime I cast a spell, counter it unless that opponent pays one. So I can't play these 3-drops until I hit one more land. I think it is still going to be worth Thoughtseizing my opponent. But it's not like this Thoughtseize is amazing. So the reason to Thoughtseize my opponent, even though like I know that one of the cards they have is bad, is because of Faithless Looting specifically. Taking a card out of their hand gives them one fewer thing to discard and turn into a relevant card later on. All right, there's the land that I need. So now, on my next turn, I get to play the Ashiok, nuke the Chancellor out of the graveyard, and we're pretty good from there. It's not like we're perfect or anything, but we're pretty good from there. All right, that's why we used Thoughtseize earlier on. Opponent may find an Animate Dead Reanimator equivalent and put this back into play. Ooh. Opponent whiffs. That means I get to exile a Looting and 2 Chancellors. So I'll put this Ashiok in play. I will just plus so that this can turn into an Edict effect. I'll junk my Hymn to Turok. Okay. Minus. Opponent also F6'd and did not fetch with their Delta. Which is definitely an error, but I think they've potentially given up all hope. Nice. All right, yeah, there we go. So folks, we're 3-0 with this deck. I'm just saying, yeah, Arkan, basically, yeah, for the Republic, for the greatness that is Legacy. I'm gonna grab a drink of water and use the restroom, and try not to laugh my ass off while I do so. I will be right back. No, not that screen. Let's go to this screen. And how about one of these? Okay, I'm back. Hey folks, in case you weren't here at the very beginning, I'm Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU, and today we are going and playing a ridiculous mono-black control deck. We are currently 3-0 with this deck list. and I think we have surpassed everyone's expectations in terms of quality of entertainment for tonight, as well as viability of this deck list. Of course, no one is going to claim that this deck is perfect, but by Jove, we are getting there. We're doing it. Marilyn of the Morn Song still has not reared her. It's her head in one of these matches. Yes, we got there. We put together Lily plus Ashiok plus Bob, and opponent conceded. Hey Spies, welcome. Yeah, if you like High Tide, I did 2 streams recently. Yo, I'm in. 3, 4, 5. You know what costs 5 mana in my hand? Bob, and him, and Thoughtseize. Let's go. This is what everyone's here for. I'm so excited. Here we go. We're a combo deck. Look at us go. We're going to Thoughtseize first this time. Brain Freeze and Ponder, you say? I'm going to take a Ponder. Alright, so we took the Tarn and the Brain Freeze there. My opponent has Ponder, Flooded Strand, and now I'll play a Bob. Who is the combo deck now? So we're off to a strong start, obviously, with a double Dark Ritual. And then this Bob probably can't actually be killed by my opponent's deck. They could have a Grape Shot, but Bob's probably not dying this turn. They would have to have exactly Grape Shot plus Lotus Petal to do that. And then this Bob can draw us into more discard, Planeswalkers, things of that nature. Oh, yeah, opponent has Brain Freeze. Once we saw the Brain Freeze, that was 100% Breach Storm confirmed. Now, what colors are in the deck? That's a whole nother thing. But Blue White Red, or Jeskai, as you youngins say, is probably the most likely variant that's running around right now. I think it's the best variant. No, some of them have Grape Shot now, because it's a very low cost one of. I don't mind some of them, honestly. I mind trying to use something like Teamer over Rug when Rug is shorter and very well established and part of an archetype name for like many, many, many decks. Yo. I guess I'll take my attack first. Yeah. Inverted Ninja, will you make... I'm very glad that you let the Pox Discord know that this was happening. Just by the way. Some good people there. I'll also have to make sure I tweet this this VOD at Travis of the Legacy Pit. So the scary thing here is that if my opponent draws Lion's Eye Diamond followed by Breach, or just like discards a Lion's Eye Diamond and draws Breach, I'm still just gonna die. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, Ashiok will be extremely powerful as a top deck. So it seems to me like my opponent has Enlightened Tutor, and they're now going to Enlightened Tutor for either LED or Breach. They probably need to put the LED into play on their next turn, and then get a Breach after that. Yep, okay. That's exactly as was expected. Yeah, LED gets to sit in play, whereas Breach does not. I will be a little upset if they do just like top deck the Breach this turn. Hey, you remember those called shots? So we lost after thought seizing, hemming, choosing not to hemming, and Lily plussing twice. That's a little frustrating. I do think our deck is probably great against theirs, though, so I'm not too worried about it at the end of the day. Yes, I do agree to that, but we didn't even get like a one-turn window to do anything cool after like the LED happened. So our opponent needed to spike the Breach that turn. Otherwise, we either take whatever card is in their hand that they can't play, or I get a chance to actually play something that potentially impacts the game strongly. Oh, the not again unluckiest fill of all time. It's okay. We'll still 5-0 with this somehow. So we'll play Leyline and Chains. Our Fatal Pushes are going to do nothing. These guys need to get out. And then our Lily Last Hopes are not good. I don't really think I need to like Sorcerer Spyglass a fetch land or anything that deep. For a backup plan, I could not play this Lily and play one Plague Engineer and just put it on Goblin if I happen to draw it. Because, like, Lily is not going to get 2 zombies and then have zombies kill against this deck. Like, one way or another. I'm going to keep this hand. I'm going to then think about how I'm going to play it. Spyglass does not turn off LED. Revoker can. Spyglass and Pithing Needle don't shut off mana abilities. So the real question is, like, am I supposed to just play Dark Ritual Rotting Regisaur and just try to kill my opponent in 3 turns? Or am I supposed to turn 1 Lily into him into a threat? The thing that makes me want to play Lily is that my opponent has already gone to 6. But him should do a lot of work, too. So we're just going to play the Dino. I mean, we're going to make them have it through turn 2 him. Turn 1 main phase Brainstorm. Does that mean they're, like, actually close to going off? They would need Petal, LED, Breach, Brain Freeze. They would need 5 cards to go off. I think. If I draw Thoughtseize, I will have to think about whether I would Thoughtseize or him. Are we serious? Are we serious? Okay. Just like gonna make them discard Brain Freeze and something else that kills me somehow. So this giant pause here is making me think that my opponent has like an enlightened tutor. And they're thinking about whether or not they should cast it. Because if they cast anything, they 100% lose the other cards in their hand. Alright, we have taken out 2 cantrips. Really? The breach? The breach. Alright. This is not necessarily a breach that kills me, but it's likely to. His opponent can crack LED for blue, brainstorm or ponder off of said blue. So the limiting thing in my opponent's hand here is going to be, the limiting thing with my opponent's resource is the number of cards that's in their graveyard. So essentially they want to find a brain freeze off 1 cantrip. So they will potentially just ponder, look for brain freeze. And if they spike the brain freeze, good stuff. If they don't spike the brain freeze and they get a random card, things get harder for them because Underworld Breach says that you have to pay their mana cost plus 3 other cards from the graveyard, and they're only going to have 4 cards in their graveyard. So things get dicey if they miss here. And if they miss with a second cantrip, I don't think they get there. They can just like replay the LED from the graveyard and pass the turn and hope to spike another breach. I mean, my opponent could have considered tapping the lands to play the breach first, since the petals tap for everything. Putting the LED in the graveyard does put another card into the graveyard. So I guess if my opponent didn't crack the petals, then they would have had to exile a cantrip to this previously. So my opponent chose not to shuffle and brainstormed. Now they get 1 deeper with that brainstorm. Alright, they enlighten tutor. We put a grinding station there. So now they cast some cantrip or the LED from their graveyard. But grinding station, I believe, is 2 mana, which they do not have currently. And so this should just stop their turn and they're going to lose the breach. The opponent also doesn't have mana to play a brain freeze or something. So don't call me crazy here, but I'm going to discard my Bob and keep the land. It gives me the opportunity to spike an Ashiok and play it, which is huge. I don't know that I'm actually dead, though. Like, my opponent gets the LED back, and then what? Like, this card has to be Brain Freeze? Yeah. Like, what do you... Okay, do I want to change anything about my boarding? Yes, I forgot a Liliana's Triumph before, which is, I guess, technically a discard spell. I'll play a Plague Engineer in that spot. Just put it on Goblin or Human or something. Yes. 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 Keep. Turn 1 Leyline. Turn 0 Leyline. Turn 1 Reggie. Turn 2 Chains. Let's go. Nicholas, thank you very much for following, as well as Mounds of Mayhem. I missed you earlier. Chains is great. Okay, but why not force the card that comes after the Dark Ritual? Well, I guess if I have multiple discard spells, that's fine. I take it back. You want a playset of Chains. That is strong. Alright, so they can play Serenity and get rid of Leyline, which means that I can't also play Chains this turn, which is super awkward for me. But opponent only has 2 cards left. So opponent can not go off this turn, off just 2 cards and no graveyard. So things are pretty good. Oh yeah, the magic cards just accrue value if you keep them. At an absolutely insane rate. So I think I'll Ashiok over Chains on my turn. Because it's going to stop Enlightened Tutors and Fetch Lands, while also just trimming the graveyard. The Serenity as an answer to Leyline was just super awkward since I couldn't play out the Chains. And so the Chains is going to be noticeably worse for the rest of this game. Yeah, I don't know that I'd sink 2 to 3k on a set of Chains. Vibegal 767. I think since my opponent had such limited resources, I'm not 100% sure that that line was available to them. I'd have to go back and double check. Man, we have a hand. But again, I think I'm going to start with the hate. Then a clock. I don't think I'll be playing Chains at all this game. Ooh, we got a fetch land for free. Ashiok, good. Confirmed. So I think I just play the dinosaur now. Like, play dinosaur, discard plague engineer, then either figure out whether I play chains or dinosaur after that. Ooh, what do I do? What do I do with all of these sweet cards? I don't think there's any way I can pass up casting this, given that I can also control the graveyard. I'll take the more mana efficient play here. It's the Hail Mary, brain freeze, target themselves, hope to get everything they possibly need. A surgical extraction, that's interesting. So they could technically go off with exactly LED and Breach as their two cards that they have. But if they don't have those exact two cards right now, the game is probably over. I don't know how many copies of Brain Freeze they're playing. So I Thoughtseize one card away. I Liliana the other card away. Then I Ashiok that giant graveyard away. Thoughtseize, Liliana, Chains. Like, yeah. This is disgusting. Yeah, I guess technically speaking, the Chains will happen before I activate the Ashiok if my opponent still has any cards left in hand. Also, how has my opponent used up this much clock? Like, I didn't force them to combo off that game. Brain freeze, target me. Okay. If we get paired against Big Eldrazi, I'll figure it out. So does my opponent, like, lose on the spot here? Because I mill two, or I exile two Brain Freezes? Real questions. Oh, you are actually playing against that. Surgical, the Hymn to Turok, sure. So my opponent has no cards. I'll lose a couple of life to Thoughtseize. I will take no cards. I'm going to play some Chains. I'm going to minus and nuke that graveyard. No need to Lily Plus here, I don't think. I'll just keep the extra card in hand, because when the other Rotting Regisaur comes down later, it may be relevant. So my opponent has no cards here. So let's just go like land, Regisaur, plan to discard this Regisaur, and since there's nothing in my opponent's graveyard, I don't know that I actually need to exile it this turn. It's going to keep that other... Actually, so I guess if I'm discarding this anyway, it makes sense to plus. A Thoughtseize. Well, let's just plus that Thoughtseize away. Nice land that doesn't work. Bob! Get in here, Bob. Nice. Nice. There's no one card that can beat me. I don't know that I have any need to ultimate the Lily. Alright, we are 4-1 with... Or, sorry, we are 4-0 with this deck. Going into the last round here. Format confirmed broken. Leyline of the Void, too strong. Every match has gone to game 3 because of some insane top decks from my opponents. So, like, we played against a D&T game where it needed to be exactly Palace Jailer off the top, and my opponent peeled it. And then we played a game against Breach where it needed to be Breach off the top, or we basically had them in a lock, and they had it. So, you know, it's okay. Let me look at the donation queue. I haven't pulled that up today on stream here. So, depending on what I'm feeling, I'll either play Espervile or the Rug Food Chain deck Saturday morning. I'll probably check in with Dr. Bill and see if he's going to be available to watch the Saturday morning stream. If he is, I'll probably do Rug Food Chain Saturday morning, and if he isn't, I'll probably do Vile. But we got some cool things coming, such as Myth Disco Pox, which if you enjoyed this stream, this one will probably be equally shenanigans. I'm not convinced that the mana in this deck actually works, but here it is in all its beauty. Also, I'm probably going to change the deck list a little bit and put 4 Leylines in here over the Crypts and the Surgicals because Leyline is stupid. But I probably won't mess with the deck list beyond that. Okay, Bill, then I'll probably do Rug Food Chain Saturday morning. Alright, here we go. See if we can get the 5-0. Versus Apple Pies 96. Since there's something on the line here, we'll do the quick MTG Goldfish check. Apple Pies 96. No legacy results. I will keep this hand. Turn 2 him to Turok into turn 3 have my choice of Planeswalker is pretty cool. No, I think this is a fine hand against any fair sort of deck. So if my opponent is not on something like Breach or Reanimator, him into one of these Planeswalkers is going to be good. Yes! Alright, so we are playing against Delver. Oh, I see. No, I don't really think this is all that clear-cut. I don't think there's a cut-and-dry best card here. The Forkbolt and the Stifle are the ones that I care about the least, probably. The Young Pyromancer is the thing that can go wide of my removal if this is gone. Like, my opponent going land Pyro is pretty bad for me if they just rip that off the top. Otherwise, they, like, Cantrip and Delver, I him them, and then I try to resolve a Walker. I'm going to take the Pyro. Pyro is the card that is the best if my opponent rips a land, which is why I'm going to play it. Get Pyro out of hand so Pyro doesn't get out of hand. So now my opponent will Brainstorm and try to hide some of their cards while also setting up the Delver to flip. Yeah, we got the Forkbolt, which is like the literal one card I didn't want to get out of that hand. I really wanted to hit the Stifle, if I'm being honest. No Ponder is interesting here. So we're playing this one now because the Stifle will hit a plus, not a minus. And the Delver can hit this but not kill it. No, basic swamps. The other thing is that I don't actually want to discard any of the cards in my hand this turn. Like, absolutely not. Wow! So I have 6 mana, so I get to cast 2 Planeswalkers this turn. It's not Ashiok. It's the others. So the real question is, like, in which order do I do this? So I'm going to cast Lily of the Veil first. If my opponent counters this, or attempts to counter it in some way, I still have other options available to me. I'm not going to choose what to do with this, though. Yeah, well, I could plus take my opponent's card. Or I can also just, like, minus this and save the Fatal Push. Oh, no, I can't really save the Fatal Push for that. That's awkward. I don't actually think this Ashiok is amazing. It's only good if my opponent draws. Alright. Goodbye, Delver. I'm just going to get rid of you. The Ashiok is only amazing if my opponent is secretly Grixis and has Gurmag, or plays a Arcanist. Now I'm going to go ahead and play out the other Lily this turn. Okay, that's fine. I'm sad about it, but it's not the end of the world. I have to talk to Anu about it now. So I know my opponent has this Brazen Borrower that's going to get flashed in. Which at some point I can beat with a push. I think I want to play a Bob here. I guess the question is, am I just plussing this, discarding my Ashiok, and leaving this stocked graveyard? I don't know that I want to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is no, this Bob's really good. Maybe I have to discard the Bob, though. So I go plus Lily, it discards their card, I discard Bob. No, because my opponent's going to attack and kill one of my things, and then I'm going to Fatal Push the Brazen Borrower to clear it. Alright, they had a land. So now my opponent is going to end step Brazen Borrower. And that's fine. Then my opponent will... they'll do it in my main phase, I guess. Whatever. So then my opponent will attack, kill my Lily of the Veil, and then end of turn, I'll Fatal Push the Brazen Borrower, since I have Revolt. Got some weird lag there. Nice! Three-turn clock. I'm not 100% sure if I'm supposed to expose that Ashiok to Bolt or not. But accepting that Mill is one of my win conditions, I should probably just use it. My opponent points a Bolt at Ashiok. That's probably fine for me at this stage of the game. I mean, that's cute. That second Brazen Borrower play is pretty brutal. I basically went from thinking there was no way I could possibly lose to questioning how I could win just with a bounce. Because my opponent didn't have removal spells that could actually clear this. I'm going to save the Ashiok on board. Because if my opponent decides to send 3 damage its way, that's a huge win for me. No, I don't regret my play of discarding the Bob. It's very awkward. Let's just look at a couple more cards that my opponent has in their deck. And concede. Like my opponent was pretty lucky to draw the second Brazen Borrower. It was very good for them. Alright. So we'll take Chains, Triumph, Plague Engineer. Those are our good cards. What are our bad cards? It's probably... No, it's this. It's frickin' Marlin. Maryland. We've ordered that out every time. I don't think I can let the Delver player search for their lightning bolts and tree names and stuff. And then I think it's Ashiok. Good old Reggie is awkward against Brazen Borrower, as we saw there. But we also have to be hellbent for the awkwardness to come up. I cannot throw back this hand. I also do not know how to play this hand. So my opponent mulliganed to 6. If I cast him to Turok, it resolves and takes some lands. That might just be GG. If I just Ritual and Bob, I'm pretty likely to get another land. I think this is a very close decision. If my opponent didn't mulligan, I would just Ritual Bob, unquestionably. But I think it's much harder since my opponent did. I'm going to go with Bob. If Bob lives and I draw another land, we're very likely to win the game. Nice, Bob lives. I mean, I really wanted to see a land in those cards, but... Wow, opponent just did not even consider dazing or forcing there. It's kind of weird to me. I'm going to take the threat here and make my opponent spin their wheels. So just looking to get land off of Bob, but Bob should probably get bolted here if my opponent has drawn one. Nope. So I do not expect my spells to resolve in the immediate future, even if I do have the chance to cast them. But I probably have overall much greater card quality than my opponent does. I'm going to think about what I'm doing while I attack. I think Chains is my bait spell here. It'll probably get dazed, and then I'll actually just Hymn to Turok my opponent later. Good God, what a painful Bob. So I need to take this off the table. This card is terrifying. So I'm going to Thoughtseize to make sure my push resolves and just, like, hurt myself more. Force pitch days. Okay. I mean, I'm obviously fine with that. But my opponent has something to protect. Or another daze. Alright, Bob, if you could not flip a 3-drop for the 3rd turn in a row, that would be cool. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Alright. So a land for Lily would be stellar. Would my opponent block this Bob? Real questions. Probably not. I might have been able to sneak 2 points of damage there. Brazen Borrower. Nope. So next turn I get Reggie, and then I can just close out the game in one more turn. Thank you, Bob. Opponent discards a Wasteland. Cool. Coast is clear. Play Regisaur. Crash. Nice. All right, so one more win, we can get our trophy. All of the marbles are on the line, Romario. All of them. Yes, I will keep this. D&T, Loam, Breach, and something else. That's right, Reanimator. I mean, I'm super happy to get a 2-for-1 with Thoughtseize. Even if this Bob gets dazed as a result. Wow! They've got to have Arcanist, right? That's the only way that makes sense as a keepable hand. Okay, Young Pyromancer. At least opponent didn't have, like, the days in addition to all of that. Notice how opponent has no cards in hand. Chains! Chains! Nice. So I think I'm going to play Regisaur and discard my Swamp and keep the Ashiok around as my next play. I don't think it really matters. But it's possible playing the land is better than the Ashiok for, like, future days reasons, but I also just want to keep another card in hand so that if my opponent spikes Brazen Borrower, I don't lose 7 points of power. Mr. Reggie, getting there with his chains. All right, chat. Who didn't believe me that we were going to 5-0 with this deck list? Raise your hands. Raise them. That's right. You doubted my power. And indeed, that just happened. So I never confirmed whether or not this actually works with Ashiok. But the rest of the deck was real good. So straight up 23 snow-covered swamps. Some of those should probably be fetch lands for the Fatal Pushes. But as you saw, since we're playing so many 3-drops, our Bobs aren't always kind. I am indeed the Pox hero today. So, why did we win so many games? Let's take a minute to talk about that seriously, because this is a little bit of a meme deck list, but talking about this will show you something important about Legacy if you're not a long-time Legacy player. But I need to rehydrate a bit first. Legacy has always been a format where if you play something that is powerful, you can do whatever you want if you know what you are doing. So if we look at this deck, Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize, Him, Bob, Regisaur, a bunch of Lilies, Ashiok, not you, Leyline, Chains, Elderspell, Spyglass. All of these cards are very powerful on their own. So, by Legacy standards, since we are doing powerful things that interact with our opponents and can basically win the game on their own, it doesn't matter what you play. This is less true when there is a very clear best deck in the format that is oppressive. So for example, in the high days of Miracles, or one of the Ren and 6 piles, or something like that, that's less true. But in a healthy metagame like we have now, like if you're playing something that's powerful and full of broken cards, like you can play whatever you want and do fine. I mean, we have answers to Okos, right? Like we have Elder Spells, we have Sorcerous Spyglass, we have a lot of discard to take it out of hand, so it's not like we're hopeless against Oko. If I were to play this again, what would I do? Number one, the first change that I would make, unquestionably, and this is really important, if I was going to play this again, the first thing I would do is swap out 23 snow-covered swamps for 23 swamps, so that the next time I 5-0, it would also be reported, since it's at least 15 cards different from this version. So, if you're going to pick up this deck list and play it, before you 5-0, make sure you swap out your snow-covered swamps for swamps if you're playing it this week. Let's get like /r/MTG Legacy into an absolute tizzy about it. Okay, number two. The next thing I would do is swap out these for 3 main deck Plague Engineers. That opens up 2 more slots in the sideboard for more fun. I'm not sure what that fun should be, because it felt like we've kind of had enough cards for our matchups tonight. So I don't know what those cards are. It might just be the 4th Plague Engineer and then 1 other random removal spell or something like that. 4th Chain. I don't think we need to go 4th Chain deep. The other thing we could do is just play like 1 more copy of like Lily Last Hope or something like that. An Ensnaring Bridge? Yeah, Ensnaring Bridge is actually probably pretty good. Actually, yeah, if I put 3 Plague Engineers main deck, well, kind of, right? Like the Regisaurs and the Bobs are sort of our primary way to actually end the game, and Regisaur and Bridge is very much a non-bo, so I'm not 100% sure about that, actually. But I think some small tweaks could very much change this. Wow. All right, what a night, folks. So here's what's in the donation queue. So Saturday morning is going to be Rug Food Chain, and then Monday is going to be Esper Vial. In the not too distant future, I have a 4-color loam stream that I'm going to do, as well as this deck, Myth Disco Pox, as the person who submitted it called it. If you're enjoying my content and you're not already following me for awesome Legacy content 3-ish days a week, please do so. And if you're really enjoying it, please consider doing something like subscribing, donating to the channel to get one of your lists on stream or something like that. And in honor of 5-0ing with basically a Pox deck, I'm going to host my friends over at the Legacy Pit. Everyone have a great night, and I hope you watch a little bit of their Legacy action.